Hello everyone and welcome to the Den. We are back for another double dose, and this week we're going to explore boxed versus homemade. So I chose cheeseburger macaroni like the Hamburger Helper and also rice pilaf because those are two that you can easily make on your own with just probably mostly ingredients that you may already have on hand. And they're not very complicated at all, and they taste so much better. I used to make the homemade Hamburger Helper all the time when my oldest kids were younger, and we're gonna make that tonight. And then the next one that we're gonna do is a rice pilaf, and that one I just recently started making on my own. But let me tell you that if you grab the rice-a-roni when you're, meal planning or whatever, and that's on your list, or the pasta sides or anything like that, a lot of them you can make on your own at home. And let me tell you, the pilaf is seriously so much better. So we are gonna start with Hamburger Helper tonight, homemade. So let's get cooking. Okay, so there's very few ingredients for this Hamburger Helper. First, I'm gonna cut up an onion. I have red onion, that's all I have on hand, so that's what it's gonna be. And I'm gonna do a head of garlic. Now, if you don't have fresh garlic, then just use some minced garlic. You could even use garlic powder, which I'll also add a little bit of that too. I always do. But you're gonna need some pasta shells. You could use elbow, you could use just like I guess they're just shells, pasta shells, the small versions. You could even use egg noodles if you wanted to. You're gonna need ground beef and tomato sauce, but I'm not gonna use tomato sauce. I'm going to use tomato paste. I'm just gonna mix that in, and you're gonna need some beef broth, and then just a few seasonings and some cheese. So, and you can also use, we're gonna get to a part where, like, anytime you make a Hamburger Helper, you have to add some milk in there because the cheese is powdered cheese. But to make this creamy, I'm going to add in some half and half, but you can use milk if you don't have half and half on hand. I know that that's an item like heavy cream that you may not always have. So first things first, let's get our onion and our garlic chopped, and then we'll get all this started cooking. The first thing I'm gonna do is get my pot boiling because we're gonna put our noodles in there. So I'm gonna get this, and they'll take a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this water and bring it to a boil while I start chopping my onions and my garlic. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my onions going here with a little bit of olive oil. Okay, so first thing that I'm going to do is get my hamburger brown. And I'm just going to cook my onion with my hamburger. We will add the garlic here in a minute. When this is all brown, we'll come back. Alright, I just added in my noodles into my water here, and I did a pound of elbow noodles, so those are going to be cooking and getting ready while we finish up this part here with the rest of the meal. And once my meat is almost fully brown, I'm going to add my garlic. So we're going to thicken this up with some flour, and if you have a very lean cut of hamburger, which this is I think an 88%, so there's not a whole lot of fat, you can always add a little bit of olive oil or whatever oil you have on hand, because we are going to add flour, like I said, to thicken up our sauce. So I'm just going to add a touch more of olive oil. Okay, so the meat is fully browned through, and I'm going to add in 4 tablespoons of flour here, and I'm doubling this recipe, and I will always put the ingredients in the description below. So let's give that a mix. I'm going to let that flour cook down just a little bit. The stove is hot. And then we're going to add in our beef broth. Now if you have your own canned, I cannot keep canned broth in my house, it goes too fast. I do have this and I'm going to use the entire box of this. If it'll focus, there we go. And this is a 32-ounce box. We're just going to give that a stir. We're going to grab our, you could add a jar of tomato sauce into this right now, or you can add in tomato paste. I'm going to grab my paste and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have a 6-ounce can of paste here and I'm just going to use the entire can. Alright, we're going to add our seasonings in, and I'm going to add a bit of sea salt, some granulated onion, granulated garlic, and oregano. You feel free to use Italian seasoning as well if you wanted to. I'm also going to throw in some parsley flakes. I'm going to stir all those ingredients in. Alright, we're just going to let this come to a boil, and then I'm going to turn it to low and let it simmer. I'm going to give it a taste. Tastes good. So now this is at kind of a boil here. I'm going to turn it down to low. And I'm going to cover it. I'm going to let this cook just until the noodles are done for a few minutes. Okay, so it's been a couple minutes. I'm going to add my cream in now. I'm going to turn this back up to high. I'm going to put a cup of cream in. Actually, it's half and half. I'm sorry, not cream. And I'm just going to stir that around. The reason why I cook my pasta separately is because it reduces the amount of time that it takes to get dinner on the table. As you're doing all of this stuff, your pasta is cooking over here. You can add your pasta into this and let this simmer for about 12 minutes if you did not want to have two pots going, and that's completely fine too. It's an alternate way to do that, but this way works for me, so you choose which way works best for you. Now I'm going to grab my pasta and put it into this sauce. So here's our pasta. And again, I doubled my recipe, so yours may not look like as much. We're going to give this a stir. And now it's time for our cheese. Okay, so I'm going to add in, I'm going to top this with a little bit of parmesan. And then we are going to add in 2 to 3 cups of cheese. I think that's good. We're just going to let all of this cheese melt and dinner will be ready to go. All right, so now it is time to serve it up. Okay, so I'm just gonna garnish with a little bit of parsley and of course some more Parmesan cheese. And then we're gonna give it a taste test. Okay, so now it's time for our taste test and we're gonna see how this tastes, and I think it's gonna be really, really hot, so. Yes, that's really good. I really like this. It doesn't taste exactly like the cheeseburger macaroni that you buy from the Hamburger Helper in the box, but it is really good and it came together so fast. I've made this many, many times before. I've also made the stroganoff version and every time it comes out really good, and I just think that it tastes so much better, so much fresher than the box stuff. So definitely try this one and stick around because I'm telling you, rice pilaf is a winner in our house, and we love the homemade rice pilaf so much more than the boxed version. So stick around because we're gonna do the second part of our double dose coming up right now. Okay everyone, so it's time for our second round of our double dose for this week, and like I said, we're doing rice pilaf. So I've been using this recipe instead of the box mix for a little while now, and I'm telling you, it is so much better, and it's just about the same like easiness, if you will, or it has the same amount of convenience, I feel like, as the box stuff. You're doing kind of the same thing. So let's get started, and I'm gonna give you everything that you're gonna need for this recipe. Again, everything will be in the description below, but let's get cooking. Okay, so as normal, I'm going to double my recipe, so I have a whole stick of butter here, and I'm gonna turn my heat to between medium and high. We're gonna let that butter start to melt. This is the first thing you're gonna need is some orzo. It's just like a rice pasta. That's the exact same thing that's gonna be in your rice pilafs from the store as well. And we're just gonna let this butter come to well, at least start to melt. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add in a half a cup of my orzo, and I only have a little bit left in the box, so I'm just gonna add all that in there, and a cup and a half of just white rice. And then we're going to wait until this orzo, we're gonna kind of move this around in the butter until this orzo comes to a darker brown, a golden darker brown, more so than this. And then when the rice turns white, like bright white, then this will be ready to put your liquid in. So it's very much like the boxed rice pilaf. If you've ever made that, it's very similar to this, except you're just gonna add your dry ingredients separately. But that's really the only difference. And you're just gonna keep moving this around. You don't want it to burn, so just keep moving it in the pan until it's where it needs to be. And when this is getting close, I'll come back. Okay, so I'm gonna try to zoom in here so that you can see that this, the rice is very white, and it starts to get kind of like a frothy, foamy. That's when you know it's time to go ahead and put in your chicken broth. And I have this here, and I'm gonna do the whole entire carton of chicken broth. All right, so we're just gonna do a shake, about a half teaspoon of onion powder. And we're gonna add in an entire teaspoon of garlic powder. And of course, I'm gonna do a little more than that. You don't have to, you don't want to, that's totally fine. I'm gonna add some parsley flakes. You can use fresh if you wanted to. I'm just gonna add right in here like this. Just enough to cover the pot there. And then some pink sea salt. However much you desire, and some black pepper. And that's it. We're gonna bring this back up to a boil here after we stir this all together. And then all we're gonna do now is put a lid on this as soon as this comes to a boil, and we're gonna turn the heat down to just above low. If it's cooking really fast, you can turn it all the way to low. All right, so once you get it to a pretty mad boil here like this, you're gonna go ahead and give it a lid and turn it down to just above low and set your timer, your Siri timer or kitchen timer, whatever you have, for 20 minutes. Okay, so it's been 20 minutes. We're gonna take the lid off, give this a stir around, and you can see just how perfect that rice is. So I'm gonna make some plates with this, and then we're gonna give it a taste test. Okay, so it's gonna be taste test time here. Let me just get a little bite. It's gonna be hot. Yes, it's super good. I'm telling you, it's better than the box. I love this recipe. I hope you try it. And I hope you also try our homemade cheeseburger macaroni hamburger helper, box versus unboxed, box versus homemade. So I hope you enjoyed this video a lot. I hope that you've subscribed if you haven't already. If you like what I'm doing, stick around, subscribe, give me a like, and I will see you all in the next video.